All right, Michael Cook. Freaking. So thank you for flying out here from all the way from Michigan.
Yes, sir.
So, so was this the like the whole point of the trip, just to record a couple interviews and collab and stuff?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been following your page for a while, so
Hell yeah.
I figured I'd hit you up and see if it timing worked out. So
Yeah.
I figured I'd come make the trip and meet you and
Thank you,
do
man.
your show. So I appreciate it.
I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, man.
It's like it really, I guess, like humbles me that somebody will actually go out of the way to
Mm-hmm.
to talk.
Yeah, and it's all about, for me, it's like veterans helping veterans.
Yeah.
Because, in the military, whether you're, the Marine Corps, Army, or whatever you're in, it's like, it feels like it's always kind of a competition and everyone just hates each other, But, as veterans, it's like, if we're not going to support each other, then nobody is, right?
Yeah,
so,
no, for sure.
That's something important to me, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's freaking huge. Especially with like social media nowadays. Like, I feel like these corporations don't really support patriots or support Americans.
Mm-hmm.
People who are like just proud to be American. So
Sure.
I feel like it's really just up to us to keep that community together and keep it growing and keep raising awareness.
Yeah, that's exactly it, 100%.
For sure. All right, bet. So you're from, what city are you from in Michigan?
Yeah, so I grew up in Ann Arbor,
Okay.
probably one of the biggest cities in Michigan. So yeah, grew up there, spent most of my life there. It's a very liberal city.
Okay.
So not many people from Ann Arbor end up in the military.
Okay.
Like, I don't ever remember the military recruiters ever coming to my high school or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think, I think it's odd for someone from Ann Arbor to end up in the military. Something you probably really have to want to do, because you're not going to be convinced by anybody else growing up there that's a good path for you. And yeah, actually, I never had any family in the military, so no background of military service, other than my great grandfather was in the Civil War, actually.
Yeah?
Which was pretty.
That's fucking
cool.
badass.
I just found this out, and so he was in like the Pennsylvania 101st Regiment, Infantry Regiment. I forget what they were. But yeah, so he fought for the Union Army, and he got captured and was a prisoner of war for 2 years in a Confederate camp, and like lost his leg in the camp, and it was crazy. But
Holy shit!
Before me, he was the last one that served. So
wow. So he was the North, right?
Yeah.
He was a good guy.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd be talking about it if I found out he was in the Confederate Army, but.
Oh, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
The Civil War. Dude, that motherfucker must have been a badass motherfucker.
That you had to have been, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's a whole different crazy generation of dudes.
Yeah.
There's not even corpsmen back there.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, I mean, they were just like sawing people's arms off.
Yeah. Oh, with no anesthesia or whatever they fucking use.
Yeah. So he lost his leg, and then he ended up becoming the sheriff of his town. And
wow,
that's pretty much all I know about him, but pretty cool.
When did you find that out?
Like a year ago, probably.
Yeah.
I found some, doing some digging on some family history, found some old articles. So
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, like I said, other than that, no other family in the military. So I think when I first started talking to my parents about joining the military, it was definitely it was weird to them.
Yeah.
Like I said, growing up in Ann Arbor and not having any family history, it was a tough conversation.
Were they like worried about it, or were they like kind of against it?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I had a different path into the military than a lot of people. I joined pretty late, right? So I grew up in Ann Arbor. Grew up playing hockey, and like anybody in Michigan does.
Okay.
And I think that's like where I fell in love with team sports and being a part of something bigger than myself. And then I wanted to continue playing hockey after high school, so I ended up going to college at Eastern Michigan University, playing on the men's club hockey team there, just to be able to keep playing hockey. So
was that like D1?
It's club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So had a blast playing there. Played for two really great coaches. Lee Norwood was one of them. He played for the Red Wings for a long time.
Wow.
Billy Mikael was another one. Played in the NHL for a long time. So just had a great time playing for them, and playing 4 years. Just getting to continue my hockey career, I guess. So then after that, I had gotten to college, so my parents were really, wanting obviously to get a normal job and, do the traditional path. And I did that. So I actually moved out to California for about 5-6 years after college.
Yeah.
And I think that's when my interest kind of started to peak for the military, because, I'd always been a part of a team. I'd always played hockey in high school and college. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm in the real world and I'm not a part of anything, right? And I think the first couple years were, great, because I was living in California and just hanging at the beach all the time. But then it's like I'm starting to miss something, and I don't know exactly what it is, right? But I think I quickly realized that I was, looking for a community, looking for a way to serve. And that's when I started talking to an Army recruiter and a Marine Corps recruiter, actually, at the time, in Huntington Beach.
Okay, so you got recruited out of Southern California, right here in Huntington.
Yeah, well, that's where I started. So initially, I wanted to join the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I think that I just thought that they were the most professional and most badass dudes.
Yeah.
And I still think that, as an Army veteran today, unfortunately.
Hey, you hear that on me?
Yeah. I think we all know that. But so I met with the recruiter. The Marine Corps was going to make me start as an E2, I think. But the Army allowed me to start as an E4 because I had my college degree already.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, so I had having my degree, I could have either gone officer or enlisted route. I chose to go enlisted route just because I didn't want to be behind a desk pushing paper.
Okay.
I wanted to, be out in the field doing whatever my job was going to be, right? So, that made it a pretty easy decision to go in the Army, being able to start as an E4 instead of an E2. So, but anyway, I had moved back to Michigan, picked up with a recruiter there, and then enlisted in Michigan and went down to Fort, let's see, where did I go? Fort Benning, Georgia, for basic training.
Okay. And what was your MOS?
I was a 12 whiskey engineer.
Okay. And you always wanted to do that? That was like the...
Yeah, I think when I first started the recruitment process, I was looking at 35 Mike, which was like human intelligence.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get the top secret clearance because I'm a dual citizen. So I'm a citizen of Sweden and a citizen of the United States. So
were you born in Sweden?
No, I was born here, but my mother's from Sweden. So I automatically got Swedish citizenship. So, and I don't know if the recruiter is full of shit or not, but he was telling me I would have to drop my Swedish citizenship to get my top secret clearance. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that, so
maybe
I'll
I'm an idiot.
pick a different job.
Yeah.
So that's when
you ever been out there?
Sweden?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, many times.
Dope.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome people, beautiful country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Nice. Speaking of hockey, totally switch up the subject real quick. You seen that one highlight of like that hockey player that got the blade in his neck?
Dude, so scary. Yeah.
That shit's nuts.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't happen often, but it's not the first time it happened.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I still play. I play every Thursday night with just some dudes I grew up with, and yeah, I mean that stuff's tough to see because that can happen.
Have you seen that in person?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've seen people get cut by skates, but never in the neck.
Yeah.
I mean, so I saw that dude get his neck cut open and he died on the ice. That was terrifying.
So like those blades, do you guys sharpen the blades?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're real sharp.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if that touches you with any sort of force, it's gonna cut you open real good.
Oh no way.
Yeah.
The only ice skate I've been was like Coronado Beach and shit.
Yeah.
In the sun.
Yeah. There's not too much hockey out here, but growing up in Michigan, dude, I mean, if you're a kid growing up in Michigan, you're playing hockey.
For sure.
Everybody does.
And did you grow up by like the Great Lakes? Is it like around there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's cold as shit over there, huh?
Oh yeah, it's freezing right now.
Yeah.
So coming here is nice.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's why I love it out here. Fucking like back home, it gets cold as shit in the winter, and then now I just don't got to deal with that shit anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking no more shoveling snow.
Yeah.
Word. I bet. So you ultimately ended up getting recruited out of Michigan, and you went to Fort Benning, Georgia, right?
Yep.
So how was boot camp? You got any like funny boot camp stories? How was Army boot camp?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to compare it to, but it sucked.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to Fort Benning. I was an engineer, so I went with a bunch of other POG MOSs, and our drill sergeants were all infantry dudes, so they just fucking hated.
Is that how it is though? Is it all drill sergeants are infantry?
I don't think so. I think we the luck of the draw. We just got a bunch of infantry dudes and one foreman. So they're all assholes. And like I said, I joined late, so it's like I think I turned 27. I either turned 27 or I turned 28 at basic training. I forget which one. And and that, like, to an 18-year-old, you're a grandpa, right? So
for sure.
It's an interesting dynamic to get thrown into that. But put your head down and just make it through it. When you just reminded me of a story. I remember one time we had this drill sergeant named Drill Sergeant Tsunami.
Yeah.
And man, if anybody knows this dude, tell him to find me because I need to talk to him. He was crazy. So he was like from the Pacific Islands, and I remember one night he comes storming into our bay and just smokes the shit out of us. And he makes us dump our camel packs over our head.
Okay.
And then he goes and turns on all the sinks and showers and floods the bay.
No way.
Yeah, floods the bay.
Yeah.
And which is why it was called Drill Sergeant Tsunami, I think. And
that was a trademark right there.
Yeah. He loved it. So then he just has us like doing this like 3-4 hour smoke session where he's standing in the middle of the bay and he's calling out. He's like, breaststroke, and we're on the ground and we're doing the breaststroke, and then he'll be like backstroke, and we have to like flip over and stuff. It was so wild. And at one point, it went on forever, and at one point I like kind of blacked out for a second, and like when I gained consciousness again, I was like, my face was underwater. I'm just like, this is fucking crazy. But looking back, it's funny. So whenever I talk to anybody I went to basic training with, that's the first story that comes up. And
how long is basic training?
10 weeks.
10 weeks. Is it different from like the grunts?
Yeah. Yes, kind of. So the grunts go through OSIT, one station unit training. So we go through 10 weeks of basic training, then you get sent off to your AIT, your school of whatever you're going to do. The grunts, they just go one OSIT through, so it's like 14 weeks, I think, of just straight that. I don't know how much different it is. I'm sure they get quite a bit more weapons qualifications and stuff like that.
Yeah, Marine Corps boot camp, fucking everybody just trains together.
Okay.
And then the grunts, they do like, I don't know how, I think it's like another 13 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And which is just MOS like focused now.
Wow. Yeah, so that's a lot longer than it would be for the Army.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, so what year did you graduate boot camp?
2017.
Okay, like summertime?
Spring.
Spring?
Yeah.
Okay, so you went, like February or something like that?
Yeah, I think I went in February.
Yeah, it was pretty cold?
It was colder than I thought it was going to be in Georgia, yeah. I mean, I was from Michigan. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Sit in the sun. But the mornings were real cold. I was surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess anywhere in February.
Is Fort Benning, Georgia, is that like by the coast?
No, it's southeast Georgia, or sorry, southwest Georgia.
Okay.
I think, yeah. So it's like right on the border of Alabama.
Oh, yeah. Okay, right on. Mm-hmm. So you do that, and then you go to your engineer school.
Yep.
How long was that?
That was 7 weeks in Gulfport, Mississippi. So we trained with on a Navy base, trained with the Seabees, which is the Navy's version of engineers. Okay. So Air Force, Army, and Navy all goes there for engineer school.
Engineer, you mean like combat engineer?
No. So I mean, there's a bunch of different types of engineers. I was a 12 whiskey, so we mainly do like construction, building stuff, anything that needs to be built in the Army.
Okay.
Typically a 12 whiskey. Combat engineers, 12 Bravos, I think, do some building stuff as well, but for the majority it is the whiskeys.
Yeah, because I know like combat engineers, they usually just like, they blow a lot of shit up, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Did you get to blow shit up too or no?
I did in Afghanistan, but not in training.
No? Okay. Cool. You said that was like 7 weeks of training?
Yep.
Nice. And then do you pick up E4 like as soon as you go to boot camp?
Yeah, immediately. I was an E4
That's
right
crazy.
off the bat as soon as I raised my right hand. Yeah.
That's wild.
So
that's crazy. They just gave you 4 ranks.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's different than the Marine Corps. So,
yeah.
You know, if you're out there and you have your degree and you want to join the military, you know, well, you should probably go to the Air Force maybe, but Army is a good option.
Yeah, dude, my son wants to. He basically wants to be a fucking grunt.
Yeah.
And well, he's only 10, but he told me that the other day, and I was like, oh, fuck, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should like encourage it because it's fucking badass, or you know, that's my son fucking joining the fucking military. You know.
Yeah. You know, if I could go back, I think I would probably go for a combat MOS, be infantry.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. For sure.
But it's like, you know, I think everybody feels like they probably didn't do enough, you know, no matter how much you did.
Big time.
But as a Pogue especially, it's like, you know, like, yeah, you know, I wish I did more.
Yeah. It's crazy because, like, I feel like it doesn't matter, like, what you did in the military, whether you reserve and didn't deploy, or reserve and did deploy, or active duty, and you did deploy and did see shit. Like, from what I've seen, at least with my clients, like, I have a couple clients who went to Kabul and everything, and some of them like feel like they still didn't do enough.
Yeah,
you know,
that's crazy.
Even though, like, from my perspective, though, you did everything you could.
Yeah,
you know, and they still like, oh, I didn't do enough.
Yeah, man. All the Marines I interviewed for my book, all said that same thing. They were just like, I wish we could have helped more people. I wish we could have, done more. I'm a part of a awesome veterans organization called Patrol Base Abate, and I had the great experience of going out to their camp in Montana this summer to spend time around some other veterans, and that was like one of the talking points was, you know, talking about, you know, you're feeling inadequate or feeling like you didn't do enough, and it's like you said, like these battle-hardened dudes that have been in a ton of combat felt the same way. You know? So no matter how much you did, you're always gonna probably feel like you could have done more. Yeah,
for sure. I remember getting out, and like for like 4 years, I just felt like I wasn't enough. Like the service I did wasn't like good enough.
Yeah,
and it took me like 4 years to realize like it's kind of just up to me to accept my service and just kind of be proud of myself for like, even though it wasn't much, I still got to be grateful that like I did that, and like the average American doesn't even fucking do shit, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And like it was like the day that I got this shit tatted. But even like picking up sergeant before, most of the dudes that I fucking like in my platoon or whatever, I picked up like really fast. Like for me, it still wasn't good enough until I got this shit done like 4 years after, where I started like just accepting like this is who I am. You know, I can't change anything. I just got to be proud of my service, and and just fucking move on and just be fucking happy.
Yeah, and I think another big part of it is you have to be proud of yourself, but finding a community is also very important when you get out for a lot of people. I mean, there's a ton of great organizations out there. I mentioned Patrol Base Abate is an amazing one for anybody looking for a veteran community. Great organization to check out. But just finding your people, that'll go a long way.
For sure. Freaking, so like after the Marine Corps, me and my wife moved to Jersey, to where I'm from. And like being out there where there's like no military, there's like nobody to relate to.
Right.
So like I remember having like working with a couple barbers there that never knew that I fucking even served in the Marine Corps. Just because like there's nobody to tell or nobody to shoot the shit with.
Right.
And then moving back to California to this area and cutting up Marines and shit, I feel like I'm at home.
Yeah.
I feel like I get that camaraderie back.
Right.
You know, this has been like the happiest I've ever been, like cutting hair.
That's awesome.
You know, just fucking being surrounded by like-minded people and shit. And yeah.
No, that's huge. I'm back in Michigan now, and I don't have any friends that I grew up with that serve. So it's I just have my Army friends, and well, it's separate, but yeah, I mean, that's what's great about Patrol Base Abate is it just allows me to, kind of stay in communication with other veterans. So
For sure.
yeah.
All right. So you graduated 2017 from boot camp and all that good stuff, and then you said you were in the reserve, right?
Yeah.
And then went back to Michigan. So what unit were you in?
I was in a 486 Engineer Company out of Toledo, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. And so it's one company out there?
Yeah. Yeah, we just drilled as a company.
Nice. And then you were out there, and then you deployed. So in the Army, you guys do AT, right? Like the annual training in the summer?
Yeah.
Is it 2 weeks also, or is it like a month?
It's like 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah. They tell you 2 weeks and never is.
Yeah. You guys go anywhere cool?
Yeah. Well, where did I go? I went to Minnesota, New Jersey. Just you go live
in Fort Dix.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just go live out in the woods for a bit. Sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like actually way worse than deployment.
Yeah, that was actually my first unit when I was in Jersey before I moved to California.
Mm-hmm.
Was like 30 minutes away from like Fort Dix. So like the couple drills I was over there, we would fucking be in the field out in Fort Dix.
Yep.
Yeah. And actually, growing up in New Jersey, I grew up playing soccer, and Fort Dix hosts a lot of soccer tournaments for some reason. So like all the major ones will be hosted in Fort Dix. So I'll be in Fort Dix like every other month for freaking soccer tournaments. And shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, just did the reserve thing, and so the weekends, and then the ATs in the summer. But the first couple of years were very quiet and just easy.
Yeah.
And then we got orders for deployment in early 2019, I think, for a summer deployment. We didn't know exactly where it was, but we knew that we're going to Kuwait first, and then we would get pushed in somewhere else. But we didn't know.
And the whole company deployed?
Yeah. So, everyone like has a preference of where they want to go. Some guys wanted to go to Iraq. Some guys want to go to Syria. Some guys just wanted to chill in Kuwait for a year. But I had always wanted to go to Afghanistan.
Yeah. No,
I remember watching.
That's like the dream.
Yeah. I remember watching the war on TV, like even as a younger kid, and just being so intrigued by the landscape, by the people, by the customs, and it was just something I always wanted to experience, is just going there and just seeing how people live.
Yeah.
So we deployed to Kuwait. We're there for like 2 weeks, and actually, when we first got there, like we stepped off the plane, and some like random lieutenant like gets on a chair and starts talking to the whole company. We have no idea who this guy is, and he's like, "You guys are going to be in Kuwait the whole year. We got a whole bunch of jobs for you to do here," and we're just like, "Fuck." So pissed.
Yeah.
So like for 2 weeks, we think we're just staying there, and then thank God we got cut orders to go to Afghanistan. So 2 weeks in Kuwait, then flew into Bagram in Afghanistan. We were there for maybe 2 or 3 days, and then we all got pushed out to different FOBs and small camps, and in like squad size elements, platoon size elements.
Yeah,
for the most part. Yeah.
And was it just pretty quiet? There was no like IDs or nothing like that.
There was indirect fire at Bagram. So Taliban's just taking pop shots with rockets, but it was very quiet, especially compared to previous years there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it was easy.
Yeah, and then like so once you got to like Bagram and pushed out to like another FOB, what was your guys' like mission out there?
Yeah, so after Bagram, we flew. My platoon flew north to Mazar Sharif. It's a city, I think the second largest city in Afghanistan, up in the north, just south of the Uzbekistan border. And that was the movie 12 Strong. Have you seen that movie, The Horse Soldiers?
Oh yeah.
So that was the city they were going to take, was Mazar Sharif through the mountains. So that's where we were. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember just sitting like looking up at that pass that the horse soldiers came through, and just being like, man, it's so gorgeous, but treacherous. Like, I couldn't imagine actually, doing what they did.
Just like crazy, like cliffs and drop offs and
jagged, treacherous, but gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were, what were we doing there? We were building bee huts there for the most part. So it was a NATO-run base that was run by the Germans. So we had a very small contingency of U.S. troops there. It was pretty much just us, my platoon, and then there was an ODA team as well. And then just like a bunch of different countries. So Germans, Swedes, I mean, Mongolians, like people from everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool just to be able to interact with the other countries. But yeah, mainly just like construction operations, building bee huts and stuff while we were there.
And bee huts are like on the like in the file building them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's a bee hut?
Just like a 20 by 10 building.
Okay.
Like just a barracks building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the file was like pretty big.
Yeah, Camp Marmo was pretty big. I don't know the size. I mean, not like Bagram, but still fairly big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
So I was there for probably four months, and that's really where the story of my book begins. Because there I meet these two men, Abdul and Mohammad, who were contractors that worked with us, and
they were Afghan.
They were Afghans, locals that worked with us. Yeah, so they would get us whatever we needed. So like as engineers, we need all these like building materials and all these different supplies.
Yeah.
And you can go through like the proper military channels to get them and wait 2 years for your materials to arrive, or you can go through local Afghans and get whatever you need in like an hour.
Yeah.
So I guess more importantly than being kind of coworkers, we became good friends, and just really got to know them and spent a lot of time with them. And they would bring us home cooked meals from their wives, and just really good dudes who just wanted the best for their family like anybody else. And so became close with them. And then when I got orders to go to forward deploy to Camp Moorhead down near Kabul, I remember going and saying bye to these guys, and gave them a big hug, and held a smile for our last goodbye. And I kind of joked like, "Hey, you should come see me in Michigan sometime," and it's like but when we shook hands for the final time, it was on the understanding that we were never going to see each other again, right? Yeah. So I leave, go to Camp Moorhead, finish out deployment there, which Camp Moorhead was awesome. Just a real small camp south of Kabul. It was also right when COVID hit, so that was crazy. Yeah. So I luckily missed a lot of the beginning of COVID because I was overseas. But
was there a COVID outbreak in Afghanistan?
I think I'm sure there was, but when shit was going haywire back here, I remember the Afghan government reporting 0 cases in the country. But it's like they had done 0 tests, So.
Yeah. Oh, weird, huh?
But I mean, we had a pretty good quarantine situation going anyway. We're on the side of a mountain on a very small camp.
Yeah.
I think they just were very strict on who came in and who went out. And I don't think we had any cases while we were in Afghanistan. No.
Right on.
So, come home, and then I'm just like back to the reserve thing, and.
But how long were you in Kabul?
So I was in Afghanistan for a year total.
No way. Jesus.
Yeah,
that's what the Army does that.
Yeah.
The Army do. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we maybe not a full year because we were on Kuwait on both ends.
Okay. But you were deployed for a whole year?
But yeah, we were deployed for right about a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I pretty much divided my time evenly between Mazar Sharif and Camp Moorhead.
Okay.
So yeah, I came home. Just picked right back up into the reserve thing, and
you came home 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Like
summer of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah,
dude, I remember 2020, bro. My so I was in the barracks barber. I was ill barber from like barber school, and then I got COVID, and I was actually fucking ill barber, and I was like, oh, this is like bad luck. And then after that, I changed my name to the Essential Barber. Okay. And this was like April, May, and I was wearing a fucking hazmat suit, and I'll go, and I would do fucking house calls.
No way.
And I marketed myself as like the essential barber, and I had a whole hazmat suit, and I was like, "Yo, I'll come to your house." And dude, that shit was a fucking hit, bro. At one point, I had 81 house calls lined up. It was like 4 weeks straight, just fucking everybody hitting me up.
Wow.
Yeah, and then when we moved out here, I'm like, I can't have this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And then I switched it to the fucking barber.
Yeah, I remember watching, hearing on the news how crazy it was back here, and we're just like, what the hell is going on back there?
Yeah,
it didn't really affect us out in Afghanistan much.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, so then 2020 comes, you're back home, and you're back doing your regular stuff.
Yep.
And you kept your job too, like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Were you like getting double paid, like with the army and then with the?
I was a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Very fortunate to work for a great civilian company that takes really good care of me, and yeah. So and even throughout the whole evacuation too, a lot of my time got pulled away from work to try to help Abdul and Mohammad, which I know we'll get into, but
yeah,
they were great about that too, just letting me take that time and to help them.
Wow. All right, so fast forward to like summer of 2021.
Yeah.
Were you keeping track of everything going down in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I was following it very closely. I remember I was at my best friend's wedding in August, and that was like right as the Taliban had surrounded the city.
Mm.
And because all the reports from the U.S. intelligence and the U.S. government were they varied, but for the most part they were saying that the Afghan National Army, the ANA, was going to be able to hold Kabul pretty much no matter what.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reports said, okay, the Taliban will get all these perimeter cities, but they're not going to take Kabul. And they took Kabul. They took the whole country in 5 days or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. So I was watching very closely, and I was talking to Abdul on WhatsApp because we exchanged numbers and kept in touch when I got home.
Okay.
So, I mean, with the Taliban's like on the doorstep of Kabul, and I remember I get a FaceTime from Abdul, and I'll never forget it. I was sitting in my kitchen with my mom, and Abdul FaceTimes me, and he's holding his little baby girl, and talking about how the Taliban are right on the perimeter of the city, and they're going to come and take Kabul, and is there anything we can do to help them? And I remember my mom had to step off screen because she just started crying. I started, getting teary-eyed and emotional because my mom's just looking at this little baby girl and knowing that this girl's future is now over. Mm-hmm. This girl is never going to have a job. This girl's never going to go to school.
Yeah.
She's never going to have a future. She's never going to be able to leave the house without a male escort or without her face covered. Just all this horrible shit. And I think that was just really setting in at the moment for my mom.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really know how I could help him. I'm just like a staff sergeant in the Army Reserves,
Yeah.
And I didn't really think there was anything I could do. But Abdul had looked into the Special Immigrant Visa program, which is the visa that a lot of the Afghans came over on. And so we started just going through the checklist of things that he was going to need to get this visa approval. And dude, it was crazy. I mean, I've said before, as an American English speaker, this was extremely challenging to figure out.
Yeah.
As an Afghan who definitely doesn't read or write in English, most likely, and some of them can't even speak English. It's impossible paperwork to do.
Yeah.
They would never be able to do it on their own without help. So we start going through all the documents that he's going to need. One of the very first things he's going to need is a HR recommendation letter from a direct supervisor that he served under. Mm. So he didn't work for us, so it's I couldn't sign it. And he had asked me to sign it, and I was like, dude, I can't. I didn't. I wasn't your supervisor. This will never get approved. And because in Afghanistan, there's rules and laws, but it's very gray. Everything's gray. Okay. It's not U.S. immigration policy is very black and white.
Yeah.
So he didn't quite comprehend why I couldn't write his recommendation letter. But
yeah.
So we quickly found his superior, I got his email, emailed the guy, pretty much just explained who I was, what we were trying to do. We're just looking for a recommendation letter from you saying that Abdul was, a good servant of the United States and blah, blah, blah. And he didn't respond. So then the next day I messaged him again, just like, hey, I'm following up. Like, this is very time sensitive. Can you help us here? And I just got such a coward's response from him. And he said something along the lines of, I can't write a recommendation letter because I'm worried about what it would do to my career and my security clearance.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was just the most gutless thing that anybody has ever said to me.
Yeah.
Like, here's this guy who had, served our country for many years in a very hostile country.
Yeah.
And this guy won't even write him a recommendation letter because he's worried about his career when Abdul's worried about his life and his family's life.
Goddamn.
So I just thought that was really pathetic. And I wrote about it a little bit in my book, but I didn't use his real name.
And that was the HR?
That was the HR letter that we needed was supposed to be written.
So you guys asked the HR dude, and then that's the answer.
Yeah, that's the answer I got, is that he wouldn't be able to write it. So right there, I thought we were dead in the water.
Yeah.
And luckily, like the next day, we were able to find a different dude. One of the dudes that was the mayor of the camp when we were there ended up writing the recommendation letter. So
wow.
So I'm like, okay, we have a little bit of momentum here. I was in constant communication with Senator Debbie Stabenow's office. They were amazing. She's a U.S. Senator for Michigan.
Okay.
They wanted to help me expedite the visa. There wasn't, they did everything that they could do. They're just, the special immigrant visa program is completely broken and was never going to really work to get all these people over here. So the guidance that we got from Senator Stabenow was, we'll apply for the visa, but then just have them go shelter at home until we call them.
Yeah.
Right. And like Kabul's falling as we speak.
Yeah.
Right. So, and at this point, we had given up Bagram, and the evacuation was being held out of HKIA. And I've been to both airports, HKIA and Bagram, before, and I remember just like thinking about it. Like, Bagram has multiple runways that you can just run flights in and out of. HKIA has one. It's not secure. It's a civilian airport.
So like, why would they choose HKIA over Bagram?
There's failures all over the evacuation. There's a million failures, right? But this was probably the biggest one, is giving up Bagram. And, that's really what led to the bombing, because the ISIS bomber that detonated himself at Abbey Gate, we had him in prison at Bagram. Mm-hmm. When we handed over Bagram to the ANA, it wasn't really a handoff. Everyone from the prison escaped. Yeah. So, but I remember, kind of doing the mental math on how much time we have, how many people are trying to get out, how many runways there were, how many flights were coming in and out, and like the math wasn't mathing, right? Yeah. It wasn't making sense. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty much the moment where I was like, okay, no one's coming for them. Yeah. Right. And if anyone's going to help them, it's somehow going to have to be me from Michigan. And I don't know how the hell we're going to do this, but we're going to give it our best shot. Mm-hmm. So I hit up Abdul. I'm like, hey, we applied for the visas, but this could take years to get your approval. No. We just have to make a run for the airport and see what happens. Yeah. So they gather up their family. And this is probably, I don't remember, the 23rd maybe of August, or 22nd, 23rd. And so they make it to the airport.
And they're in this fucking crazy ass crowd, right?
They're crazy. So he's sending me pictures of the just wild crowd. It was huge, zero control. Their first attempt at the airport, they ran into a Taliban checkpoint, and Mohammad got his ass beat real bad.
Oh, no way.
They were just jabbing him with their rifles. And when I eventually ended up seeing him months later, he was still covered in bruises.
Wow.
So, I got his ass beat pretty bad. Luckily, he was able to escape and hide into the crowd. And so they end up at Abbey Gate kind of accidentally, just because, I didn't know which gate to send him to because I had zero intel at this point. And they spend 12 hours trying to make their way to the front. I mean, it was just absolute pandemonium. They're standing in shit water at the canal, probably knee waist deep shit water.
Yeah. Is this still the 23rd or this
is still the 23rd.
Okay.
And they have their 5 little kids. I mean, there's 5 kids under 8 years old. One of them is like 6 months old. Yeah. And it's like, if you see these videos, I mean, there's no space.
No,
like,
for sure.
A lot of the Marines I interviewed were, just seeing people get crushed and stomped on and just watch the life leave their body. And there was just nothing that they could do. But eventually they get up, pretty close to the Marines. And I remember talking to Abdul a couple times, and the communication was so bad because, we're using jammers just to try to eliminate the threat of IEDs and stuff. But that was also cutting out phone calls, obviously. Mm. And so any call we got was just so valuable. And long story short, after, them standing in the sun for 12 hours, no water, no food, and their kids, I got a call from Abdul, and I'll never forget it. He was like, "Brother, can I take this moment to go home and hug my family?"
Yeah.
Because they were just so exhausted from being there all day that they had to get the kids out of there. Mm. And that just was just like a sucker punch, right? Because here I am, I'm a non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. They're standing 15 feet from U.S. Marines, and there's nothing that I can do to get the attention of these Marines to let them in, right? So that was kind of the moment where I was like, okay, I need to get a lot smarter about this, because they're not going to be too excited about, trying to get past another Taliban checkpoint to do the same thing without any different action. So that's really when I took to Instagram and social media, and that's where I found, the whole digital Dunkirk network of people, which essentially was just a bunch of, a lot of Afghanistan vets, a lot of other vets, people that work in government, and just civilians that were just seeing our government fail our Afghan partners that had that stood shoulder to shoulder with us for 20 years. So they said, "Fuck it, we're gonna do this ourselves." So individually, maybe we knew 1 or 2 people, and maybe you had a phone number of someone at HKIA, but collectively, we knew we had a ton of intelligence, and we knew everyone at the airport. We knew who was working what gates, what documents were being required at that moment, because that was changing constantly by the State Department as to what documents were allowed to come in and what weren't. So I'm in all these different group chats on Signal and WhatsApp, just seeing all this information get passed, and ended up getting a map from somebody that worked in the CIA with a route that would get them to the airport without hitting a Taliban checkpoint. So quickly sent that over to him, got some more information about who was working what gates, and heard 2-1 was working Abbey Gate. So we make another run, or let me think. So at this point, the Taliban, this is probably the 24th now, and the Taliban had put out that Afghans have 12 hours now to leave the country before they're shutting down evacuation operations from the outside,
Yeah.
So we controlled the perimeter of the airport, the Marines and the Army and the U.S., but the Taliban controlled everything else, the exterior. So they had all these different, choke points of, you couldn't get in to any of our gates without going past the Taliban checkpoint.
Yeah.
So, they had the upper hand big time. So had them follow the map. And I'm like, dude, you got to go now, because in 12 hours, you're never leaving this country. So they make another run for the airport. They follow the map. It's good. They don't run into any checkpoints. So I quickly jump back on the group chat and let people know that my people had made it through this these directions with no problem, so other people could try to use that same route.
Yeah.
And so they finally get there, and it's, again, just a hellacious day. I think this is the day where people are falling from the sky, people trying to hold on to the airplane.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, but that's how desperate these people were, is they're, clinging to the wheels of a C-17, pretty much knowing that they're going to die, I imagine. But that to them was the better option than staying in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
If that says anything to you. So, and I remember watching that on YouTube or Instagram or something, and it just immediately brought me back to 9/11, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
The war was ending the same way it started, with bodies falling from the sky and hitting pavement.
Yeah.
And it's just so fucking crazy that this is real life. And I remember I interviewed one of the Army dudes that was like on the runway, and when he got up to the body, like the bodies were still smoking from like hitting the runway so hard, and just so crazy. But so Abdul and Mohammad make it back to the airport with their families, and kind of go through the same process of like spending 12 hours just trying to make their way up through Abbey Gate. And at this point I was communicating with some Marines. This guy, Chris Davis, who actually wrote the foreword for my book, is just an amazing American, amazing man, amazing Marine. And he was communicating with some Marines inside the gate for me, and coordinating. We're trying to coordinate my family meet up with another family, and then we're going to bring them in together. And so they kind of make it up to the front, and I get a call, and it's Abdul, and he's like, "Hey, I'm in the airport. I made it in." And I'm just like, "Holy shit! Okay, that was fast," because we had him holding up a sign that said Marmo, which was Camp Marmo, where we met up in Mazar Sharif. And I had the Marines looking for him holding that sign, and he was waving up like a purple scarf or a white scarf, I forget.
So when you say made it to the airport, like the Marines pulled him up?
Yeah. So he got pulled up, and then I didn't hear from him for like an hour. And I was like, okay, he's in the airport. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I start messaging Chris Davis and, all my other connections through Digital Dunkirk, and like telling them, okay, they're in, everything's groovy.
And then earlier you said that was 2-1 Weapons company that pulled him up?
It's 2-1 Weapons. So this was, so I get a call about an hour later from Abdul. He's outside the airport again. He had been kicked out by the State Department because he didn't have the proper documents.
Wow.
So we're right back to square one. And,
so the Taliban didn't kill him after the Marines kicked him out. Because I know a lot of people were getting like executed after getting kicked out.
Yeah, I mean, a ton of people were just getting executed immediately. Yeah. I mean, the Marines that were there saw it 10 feet in front of them, and there was, their rules of engagement didn't allow them to intervene in the situation. Just, crazy. But so they get kicked out. I'm just like, shit, man, like this is never going to work. And it's just like, honestly, it's just so pathetic that I wasn't there, but everything that I've heard from the dudes I interviewed that were there pretty much said that the State Department were just pieces of shit.
Yeah.
They never saw them at the gates. They were working like normal 9 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
The communication was always changing on what documents were, needed. It's just a clusterfuck and just a huge failure on their part. And I was, that was very frustrating. Knowing that I had, we had applied for their visas. I had a U.S. senator trying to expedite them, and the State Department's kicking them out.
Yeah.
This made no sense. So they get kicked out, spend probably another 12 hours overnight just sitting in the shit water of Abbey Gate. And then I want to say this is the 25th now. I get a call from Abdul, and
let me turn these lights on. Cool. All right, so we were at where were you?
Yeah, we were okay. remember. So yeah, Abdul and Mohammad are, you know, early on the 25th, they're at Abbey Gate, and I get a call from Abdul, and I forget, I want to say it was like middle of the night for me in Michigan. And I can hear him, but I can tell that the phone is not to his ear. Like I can tell that the phone is like extended and he's screaming, and I can hear him.
And he's in the crowd.
Yeah. And I'm just like, shit, like, does the Taliban have him? Like, what's going on? Because he's like screaming bloody murder, you know? And then I can like make out what he's saying, and I can hear him yelling at somebody, and he's saying, talk to the sergeant, meaning talk to me. And then all of a sudden I just hear a voice come on the phone, and it's just Sergeant Zelensky, United States Marines.
Wow.
So I'm on the phone with a Marine at the gate.
Oh shit.
And I know that this phone call could drop at any second because it's the jammer. So I'm just trying to talk, you know, a mile a minute. And I'm just like, hey, Sergeant Cook, United States Army, these guys, you know, I worked with these guys in Afghanistan. They have SIVs filed. Can you please help them? And I remember him, for some reason, he thought, when I identified myself as, you know, being in the Army, he thought that I was there because a lot of the 82nd was there.
Okay.
And he was like, I don't have any resources. Like, can you come down here and escort them up to the State Department yourself?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm in Michigan, man.
Yeah.
And I pretty much just started begging the guy, and and not that I needed to, but he was like, yeah, man, like, I got you. I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna get these guys out. And you know, it's so crazy, and there was so much commotion that I thought he said Sergeant Volensky with a V.
Yeah.
When we were on the phone, so I immediately wrote down Sergeant Volensky because I figured that name would probably be meaningful at some point. So they go dark for like 3 hours, and I don't hear anything. And then I get a text, WhatsApp from Abdul, and it's just a picture of him wearing a State Department bracelet. And you know, that meant that they were safe. They were in the airport. They were safe. They had passed the State Department.
So Zelensky let them in.
Yep. Yeah, he got them in and passed the State Department. And
what company was Zelensky?
Zelensky was 2-1 Weapons Company.
Okay.
And just a great man. So yeah, I get that text, and I remember just like, I'm in my bedroom, and I just throw my fists above my head, and I'm just like, I'm all emotional, I'm like crying, and just so happy that, you know, I hadn't slept in 4 days at this point, and just so happy that they were able to get in. And so then from there, they went from they flew out of HKIA. They're able to get actually on a Save Our Allies flight. Nick Pomashano and Tim Kennedy and Chad Robichaud.
Oh, they were them.
I was, yeah. So Nick Pomashano helped me get them manifested on a flight. He was super awesome to work with, just instantly replying to my text messages. He had no idea who I was.
Wow.
So I sent him all the information. He got them manifested on a flight. So they flew out. I think they flew to Qatar, and then they ended up in Germany for a minute, and then DC, and then Indiana, before they were released to me. So yeah, pretty wild.
So in total, it was, you said Abdul, was it
Mohammad, their 2 wives, and at that time they had 5 kids under 8 years old. Mohammad just had another baby, so he has 6 kids now.
And so his 6th kid is an American.
Is an American. Yeah.
Wow.
So crazy.
Wow. That's a tearjerker right there.
Yeah. But so, you know, they make it, you know, fast forward quite a bit here, and then I'll go back. But we had Zelensky come out to Michigan to meet me and meet everybody. And I remember just, you know, I gave him a big hug, and everyone was crying. And he came out with his dad, and you know, just seeing him get to see the family again, I know it meant like the world to him.
Wow.
Because a lot of these Marines, like,
for sure,
just that time, those few weeks were the worst weeks of their lives. Mm-hmm. And for him to get to come to Michigan and sit at the dinner table of generations that he saved, and they're now living in America, and their daughter, that same daughter who didn't have a future anymore, now has a future, and she's in school right now, and she's playing soccer. And so Zelensky came with his dad, and I've never seen a prouder dad in my life. This guy, kind of realizing that his son is like a real American hero,
for sure,
and saved a ton of lives. So really special for that moment. I'm so thankful. And a big reason why I wrote this book is, there's a bunch of stories out of how many heroes there were at HKIA, and there was a ton. And there's, some that are maybe more famous, I don't know what the word is, but more well-known and getting accolades.
Sure.
And they 100% deserve it. Guys like Sergeant Vargas, amazing human being, deserves every good thing that he has come into him in the rest of his life. But there's a lot of other dudes that did, very heroic and amazing shit that their names haven't been said at all. So I'm lucky enough that I get to, introduce the world to multiple people that were there, not just Sergeant Zelensky, but some other dudes too that were doing some amazing stuff, and their names haven't been brought up yet. So it's an honor for me and very special to be able to, bring those people out to the world. So I hope people read about them, and I hope they're proud of them. So then, I guess next phase of this journey was, they're safe. So I'm like, okay, like I can sleep, I can take a breath here.
So you said it was October of 2021 when they were finally in?
They finally made it here Halloween of 2021. Their first day was Halloween. My hockey team donated a bunch of costumes for the kids, and we all went out trick-or-treating, and they thought it was the greatest thing ever. And even like watching Abdul and Mohammad was amazing, because they were like seeing all these costumes, and they had never seen anything like that in their life. They're like, what the fuck is going on? But the kids were just smiling ear to ear and just sprinting down the road getting candy, and it was super special.
That's fucking awesome, dude.
So they make it here, but I guess to back up a little bit, so I'm doing all this work as a civilian, right? Because I'm still in the reserves, but I'm not like acting in any official capacity at all, right? And but my commander had found out that I had gotten Abdul and Mohammad on a flight and out of there. So I get a call from my platoon sergeant. He's like, "Hey, I just talked to the commander. The command knows what you did to help get people out. We have another family." There was a soldier in my battalion in a different company who his family, his 3 brothers, sister, and mother were stuck in Kabul, and they had been trying to get them out, and they couldn't. So my commander reached out to me. She's a female, amazing, the best commander, best captain I've ever had. And she was like, "Hey, I'm going to have this the captain the commander of this other company call you and see, can you help them?" And I'm like, I don't, it's pretty late in the game at this point. Like, pretty much this is after the bomb. So pretty much all the gate operations at Abbey Gate and most of the gates had been shut down. And I'm like, look, it's late in the game, but I'll try whatever I can to help. So get a call, get in touch with this.
So this is still during the evacuation?
This is still in August. Yeah. This is before we left. So this is probably the 26th, maybe the 25th, like right after the bomb went off, or the 26th. I forget exactly.
After or before?
Yeah, this was after the bomb went off. So we're like, just trying to sprint to find options. I was working with this another amazing girl named Avani, who was working with Allied Airlift 21, which was an organization, civilian organization, getting people out. So I'm like, hey, we got one more family. Like, this one's pretty personal, because this is a soldier in my battalion, and it's his direct family that they're trying to get help. Like, we need, let's do whatever we can to try to help them. And by the way, at this point, I think it's fucking crazy that the U.S. government is calling me asking for help, right? To evacuate people when the
command is hitting you up.
It's crazy. And it just like, Not that it's like his fault or her fault,
but just put in perspective
it puts in perspective how much of a fuck up it was.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, I'll do whatever I can. So we make some connections through some special forces dudes that are running like rat lines. So, you know, there's the main gates, East Gate, West Gate, Abbey Gate. But there was also like these small rat lines that they were trying to sneak people in through. But you just had to figure out like who was on the other side of these fences and get in communication with them. So we jumped into a operation that this dude was running of sneaking people in through all these random small holes in the fence that, you know, they had special forces on the other side or rangers, whoever, like Tim Kennedy people. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so we get like a challenge and password picture, and it's like a black screen with a yellow triangle on it, and that's like the challenge and password for them to show to the SF dudes when they see them to get them brought into the airport. So we have them meet up at the rally location. Then quickly, I think there was a Taliban presence, so they had to move. So we moved up to Glory Gate. Has a couple names, but there was the CIA gate at the north of the airport near the Pandashir gas station, which has become, you know, kind of a famous landmark in the evacuation. But so move up there, get a new challenge and password. This time the picture was of Rosie O'Donnell. Just like, you know, I think everyone is just going stir crazy at this point, right?
Yeah.
And so constantly the list is getting put out of who's going to be on the next run. So like this family, and this family are getting on the next run. And I noticed that our family was never making the list.
Yeah.
And so finally, you know, long story short, we get word that, okay, all gate operations are ceased at HKIA. And that was when we realized, okay, if we're getting this family out, it's not through HKIA. So we need to start figuring out other options.
Yeah. And
so Avani, the girl I was just talking about, had made some connections and somehow ended up with Senator Blumenthal's phone number. So we're like, okay, let's just call the office and see if there's anything that they can do to help us. And so Avani calls and thinking that some staffer is going to pick up the phone. And all of a sudden, some voice just says, hello. And she's like, hey, is this Senator Blumenthal's office? And the voice is like, this is Senator Blumenthal. And so she was talking to Senator Blumenthal and explained the situation. And he was like, okay, let me talk to my staff, see if there's anything we can do. We'll connect with you. So I think we got a call back from Senator Blumenthal's chief of staff. His name was Joel, another amazing human being. And they had put in place a plan to shuttle, I don't know exactly how many people, a couple planes worth of people from HKIA through 14 Taliban checkpoints up to Mazar Sharif Airport to get on a private flight to fly them out. So we're like, okay, we have, you know, it's very dangerous, but we have some sort of plan. So, you know, we talk to the family, you know, let them know the risks of what they're about to do. And we have them hide all their American paperwork in the mother's bra and delete all their phone conversations that they had with us, all the text messages, anything American related, because there were reports that shuttles were getting stopped and Taliban was coming on the bus and going through people's phones. And if they found a +1 phone number that you were communicating with, they were killing you on the spot.
Wow.
Now, I don't have any firsthand knowledge that it was happening, but I heard that from multiple sources that was happening. So we're super careful to have them delete everything, hide their documents. So every time they would like pass a checkpoint, they would text us and let us know, but then they would delete it immediately. So we're tracking their movement, and they make it up past the 14 or whatever Taliban checkpoints, and we have them hiding in a safe house up in Mazar Sharif. I forget the organization. Ben Owen is a name a lot of people know. He was supplying us with safe houses. Great guy. He's still working on evacuating Afghans, I think.
Wow.
But he was paying for it out of his own pocket, like renting Afghan houses, from some connections he had there, and we're just storing people in there. And we had a ground team that was bringing them food and water and moving them pretty consistently while we were trying to figure out the flight situation. So they ended up being in these safe houses for like a month, and it's like they were supposed to be there for a day or two before flying out. But every time they'd load the buses to go to the airport, like something would happen, the flight would be canceled. A lot of it was U.S. government canceling stuff, like Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State, was canceling or not giving us landing permissions in Qatar at any U.S. bases, because he was saying, we don't know who's on these flights, we can't give you permission to land.
Yeah.
And which was complete bullshit, because Senator Blumenthal's team had sent all the names over to them. They knew exactly who was on the flights. And they were going to a lily pad site like Qatar, where they would be able to vet everybody. It's not like we're flying people directly into the United States, right? Like,
yeah.
You will have time to vet these people, but we need to get them the fuck out of here right now. So after a month of just back and forth, and Senator Blumenthal's a Democrat, just like Blinken, and Senator Blumenthal stood up to Blinken and pretty much called him out publicly and said, you need to fix this shit. It's not what he said, but something like that. And eventually Blinken gave us permission to land. And so another thing we had been hearing is that Taliban TSA, or their version of the TSA, they're running the airports now. They're running the whole government. So they had all these checkpoints at the airport too. So they had to get through like 3 or 4 checkpoints at the airport. But we had been hearing that people that didn't actually have visas, they weren't allowing through. The Taliban wasn't allowing them through. So out of straight out of the movie Argo, we create fake visas. Avani had found this law firm that did some pro bono work for us, created fake visas for them, just not to get into the U.S., but just to get past the Taliban, right? Yeah. Like they had U.S. approval to leave, but we just had to figure out how to get them past the Taliban. So we created these fake visas that they could use. And so then the day finally comes where it's time for them to head to the airport. And I swear it was like, it felt like straight out of Argo, because I remember just all I could do was sit there and wait and just hope to God that they made it past security. So we finally get a picture, and it's them sitting on the plane, the whole family. And so then I have the tail number of the plane. It was a Cam Air flight. Essentially, what was going on unofficially was money was being. The only reason Taliban was letting flights go out is because they were getting paid. And obviously the U.S. government cannot pay the Taliban. So money was getting paid to Cam Airlines, who was the owner of the flights. And, I'm pretty sure that they were bribing the Taliban, and that fee was all built in because it was very expensive to get these planes. And actually Tina Fey, the actress, donated a bunch of money to help us get the plane off the ground. It was crazy. Her connection was, have you seen that movie, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot? She plays I don't
think so. I've heard of it though.
Yeah, she plays like a Boston Globe or New York Times reporter, and it's based off a real person.
Okay.
So I think her name was Kim Barker, that she plays in the movie, and one of Kim Barker's associates was one of the people on our planes. So Tina Fey got involved, put a bunch of money up for pay for flights. Super cool. She didn't, she never went public with that. Yeah. Never got any credit for it, but I'll put her name out there. So they make it on the plane. I have the tail number of the plane, so I'm tracking it on Flight Aware or whatever, the tracking software. And we have the only plane in Afghanistan. So on this software, you can see all the surrounding countries have thousands of planes flying over them, right? There's one plane in Afghanistan flying, and it's ours. So I'm just tracking it, just, praying to God they leave Afghan airspace without turning around. And I remember sending the text out to the team as soon as they cleared Afghan airspace, and it was a big celebration. So that was pretty cool. So that family is now in Ohio, and I was, was fortunate enough to be invited down to their house for Afghan dinner a couple times. And,
Yeah.
they're doing really great. So,
have you met the one soldier, the dude's family? Have you met him or no?
Who? Oh, whose family it was that got out? Yeah. Yeah. So his name was Bismillah. Yeah, he's an Afghan, but he's a U.S. soldier, and really nice guy. And yeah, he invited me down too. As soon as his family got released and in his custody, he invited me down, so I got to meet him and his whole family. So
wow. How many
crazy.
of them did made it out?
In that family, there was the mom, 3 brothers, and a sister, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's like there was luck. I mean, it took a bunch of people, and it took a lot of luck. So
yeah.
We're very fortunate that they are out, they're safe, and they're in the United States.
Wow, it's fucking amazing, dude.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how like there's like so many people that like contributed to helping that cause.
Yep.
You know?
Something I've said before is I've never been so proud to wear the uniform than watching that evacuation and the heroics that our Marines, our soldiers, our airmen, everyone that was there put forward. I've never been so proud of our troops and never, so disappointed in our government.
Yeah.
These are, like I said, these are people that stood shoulder to shoulder with us for 20 years of war, and we left them behind, and they're still there, and they're getting slaughtered every single day by the Taliban.
Yeah.
And we're over 2 years later, and we still haven't fixed the special immigrant visa program. It's still a disaster. There's a couple acts in Congress or in the Senate right now. Afghan Adjustment Act is one of them.
Yeah.
And they're just stalled, and no one's doing shit about it. And those acts would create immigration pipelines and paths for citizenship for our Afghan allies that we promised safe passage to, and they got left behind. So hopefully they figure that out and create a path to citizenship for these people. But I forget what the numbers are, but there's still, I think, over 100,000 SIV applicants stuck in Afghanistan, and very few special immigrant visas left. That were allotted. So a lot of them, almost all of them will be left behind, and a lot of them will be slaughtered.
Damn.
So it's sad.
Yeah. Do you still plan on trying to help more people get out?
Yeah, we just got a family here last week.
No way.
So it's another fucking crazy story, and just so pathetic. But a U.S. airman who is currently serving, he's a staff sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. He's an Afghan, but he's an American citizen, and he's an airman.
He's in Afghan?
He's from Afghanistan.
Okay.
He's serving in the U.S. Air Force. He lives in Ohio. His mother, sister, and grandmother were stuck in Afghanistan, and when the Taliban comes to a town, it's very easy for them to figure out who has U.S. connections. They grab somebody, they threaten their life, they threaten their family's life.
Yeah.
Like, you tell me who has worked with the government here, or we're going to kill your fucking daughter. So very quickly they found out that this family had a son serving in the U.S. military. They went to the family's house, shot the shit out of it with AK-47 fire. I saw a bunch of pictures of bullet holes everywhere. Yeah. The house was just slaughtered in bullet holes. Luckily, they weren't home at the time. They come home to find that, take pictures, instantly get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
So I forget how I learned about it, but I was asked to help. So we pretty much just went with the same plan. We're like, all right, if you can, let's get you up to Mazar Sharif, because we have safe houses that we can hide you there for. And then we'll, in my mind, I'm like, this is the family of a U.S. airman. Like, the government's going to get this family out ASAP. Like, I just need to get them safe and then get the proper channels involved, and we'll get them out. So we have them in a safe house up in Mazar Sharif for like a fucking year, over a year. They don't qualify to come here. The mother, there was a program for the mother to come here, but she would have had to leave her mom, who's, you know, this airman's grandmother, who was very old, and her very young daughter. Yeah. So she was taking care of both of them. She was never going to leave. So we have them in safe houses forever. Nothing ever happens. Took 2 years of just fighting the government, just, you know, making appeals and filing for any visa we could. And finally, a buddy of mine got us in contact with Congressman Jim Jordan out of Ohio, and his staff was really great. And finally, they helped us expedite the visa, where just last week they flew in. And actually next week I'm going down to meet them and have dinner with them. So wow. Pathetic that, you know, people like us are having to do this work. Yeah. This is not our fucking job. Yeah. The State Department, the government in general, needs to get their head out of their ass and start helping these allies that we promise safety to.
Yeah. And do you plan on helping more people out?
Yeah, I mean, dude, every single day I get messages from Afghans. Every single day on Instagram. Yeah, because during the evacuation, my contact information got leaked by a news organization. I won't say their name because they know they didn't mean it and they were trying to do something good, but they had put my number and Instagram out there as somebody that could help. And they took it down, but enough people had seen it where, yeah, I'm not kidding. 2 years later, I get messages every single day of people just begging for help. And it's really sad because, you know, I want to reply to all of them and I want to help all of them, but it's not possible. Yeah. And yeah, it's tough because I don't want to be the guy that these people are begging for help for their life and I'm not responding, right? But it is really hard to keep up with it. Because I just know that I'm not going to be able to help all of them. So, and you know, I'm going to do my best to keep helping people as much as I can. But
yeah, and then, you know, it's going to come to a point too where like you kind of got to move on with your life as well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, which, you know, is tough to say, but I think writing the book was very therapeutic for me. I know it was very therapeutic for all the Marines I got to interview and they got to tell their stories because a lot of these dudes hadn't told anybody a lot of this stuff. Like one of the guys I interviewed was like, dude, I haven't told my wife a single thing that I've told you. Like, it just felt so good for them to get it off their chest. So, you know, that was great. So it helped them, it helped me, and hopefully it'll raise some awareness as to what's going on. Because I know a lot of Americans have no clue what happened. And I don't blame them. Yeah, that's crazy. You know, so hopefully people will learn and our government will do better next time because it's never going to, abandoning your allies is never going to make strategic sense for the United States. Yeah. So, you know, when you think about what that says to our future allies and future wars is, you know, give us, you know, devote your lives to us. We'll promise you safety and then we'll abandon you. Yeah. So all you can do is, you know, keep moving forward and hopefully they get it right next time.
Yeah, hopefully fucking with this shit going on in the Middle East again, fucking. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be over there right now. I know we have a bunch of Marines just waiting.
Yeah.
And I hope they just wait. I hope they don't have to do anything.
Yeah. And so do you, since, you know, this is like very like emotionally like taxing, do you like see like a therapist or anything like that?
I don't. I've been thinking about it. Like I said, I think writing the book was very therapeutic for me because it's kind of feels like the same thing. I'm getting the story off my chest, and you know, being able to tell it and write it and just get it on page was very therapeutic. So yeah, not yet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy too, because like the guys that I've interviewed as well, um, yeah, them too. Like they've told me things that they never told anyone else.
Yeah.
Like when I did the interview with Sanchez, I cut him up for a whole year and a half. But when we did that interview, there's so much of his story that I never knew about.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just like mind blown.
Those guys saw some crazy shit, man. I mean, Sergeant Zelensky, I write about this in my book. He, while he was in Afghanistan, he had his first child. So he missed it.
Wow.
And there was a moment at Abbey Gate where an Afghan mother walked up to him from the crowd and handed over her dead baby.
Oh my God.
And then just vanished into the crowd.
Yeah.
And so he's standing there holding this dead baby before he holds his own baby.
Yeah.
And I mean, they all have just crazy stories of just horrendous things. I mean, people getting trampled, babies getting thrown over the T-walls and getting stuck in the Constantine wire, babies getting trampled, you know, things that a 21-year-old should never have to see.
For sure.
So, yeah, I have so much respect for everybody that was a part of that mission.
Yeah.
And the things they went through.
Freaking, did your unit like ever recognize you or anything like that?
Not really. We had one of the families come in, along with Senator Blumenthal's team, came down to the unit actually.
During like drill weekend or something?
Yeah, and we presented them an award. Yeah, I think I got a coin. So that's all right.
Here you go.
Yeah. See you later.
That's fucking so typical.
I know. Yeah, I mean, like I'm out. I don't need any awards. I think I think there's a lot of people a part of that digital Dunkirk network that do deserve recognition.
Yeah.
That saved hundreds and hundreds of lives. And there's barely been awards given for the guys that were actually boots on the ground.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Which is pathetic.
Even with Sanchez's freaking wild story, still hasn't been. And the only people that recognize is like the veteran community on social media.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe they'll get a coin or something. But,
yeah. Right.
Yeah. Hopefully they get the recognition they deserve, because they absolutely deserve it.
Yeah. I mean, they started interviewing. The General CENTCOM order for all the Marines that got injured to get interviewed.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in it was like September he ordered that.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah. I mean, another big part of my book is we do a big deep dive into what the DoD report says happened on the ground and what the Marines say happened on the ground, because the stories don't match whatsoever.
For sure.
In the DoD report, it says that it was not a complex attack. That there was no small arms fire after the explosion, which is all bullshit.
Yeah.
Because every Marine that I've talked to remembers specifically getting shot at as soon as the bomb went off.
For sure.
And we never even really got into the bombing, did we? But so Abdul and Mohammad actually got out like 5-6 hours before the bombing.
Okay.
So they were very fortunate. Because they
were right there.
It was right where they were standing is where the explosion happened. Yeah, so
wow,
5-hour difference and they'd be toast.
Yeah, and then like with the shooting too, like Sanchez got shot, my buddy Finley got shot. I did the interview with him. My other buddy Wilson got shot. Shirley got shot.
Yeah,
and they showed me like the bullet holes.
Yeah.
But
there's no small arms fire, so
wild. And then with Finley, he has one bullet hole that went through both his legs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the craziest part of the whole thing is that Sergeant Vargas Andrews was a sniper from 2-1 Weapons Company. Had intel as to who the bomber was, what he looked like. I mean, even in our digital Dunkirk chats, we were getting notifications like, "Hey, suicide bomber heading to Abbey Gate, time now."
No way.
That morning, so we knew before the bomb exploded that it was happening. I mean, everybody knew. Yeah. Everyone on HKIA knew. They were getting intel as to exactly what he looked like. So Sergeant Vargas scoped this guy through his lens. I think it was supposed to be a younger guy wearing a dark clothing, escorted by an older gentleman wearing a certain color clothing. I forget, and that's who we found. Called psychological operations or somebody like that to confirm. They confirmed they believe that was the target. Sergeant Vargas called over his battalion commander, asked for permission to engage. The guy said, no, I don't think I have. He said, I don't have authority to make that decision, and I don't know who has authority to make that decision, which is pathetic.
That's fucking horrible.
As a battalion commander of an infantry battalion in Afghanistan, you better fucking know who has authority to make that decision.
Yeah.
But just the fact that, to this day, Sergeant Vargas believes that was the bomber that he had in his scope, and they had to let him go.
That must be so awful to live with that thought.
Yeah. Because he lost friends,
Yeah.
So knowing that he had that bomber in his sights and could have eliminated the threat, but wasn't allowed to.
And he probably even had the thought in his head, like, I should probably just shoot this guy.
Probably. I'm sure. I guarantee you he wanted to,
Yeah.
Would have possibly saved hundreds of lives.
Yeah. So when does your book come out again?
So it's out now. You can find it on Amazon. It's called Life and Death at Abbey Gate. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, anywhere you get your books, you can find it. And it tells, way more in depth than what we covered today. And, tells the story of a lot of heroes that served there. So I hope people buy it and read it and learn a little bit about what these young men and women gave over in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And in the book too, you also have. You mentioned that you interviewed Marines over there.
Yep.
So their stories are in the
book. So their stories are in the book as well as to what they experienced at Abbey Gate before, during, and after the explosion.
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we could wrap it up with that right there.
Awesome.
I appreciate you coming through.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man.